So let's talk about the subplot. And a lot of times, if your main plot's not working, a lot of times the answer to why it's not working can be found in the subplot. Make your subplot better. Make something happen in the subplot that triggers something in the main plot to happen. Every single time something was not happening in my story, if something wasn't working, I always revisited the subplot, and that's where the answers were. You have a great idea for a plot, you write the first draft, it's going well, but then something's not working that well, look at the subplot. 99% of the time, for me, that's where the answer was. In the final episode of Band of Brothers, the war is over. They're waiting to go home, and they're celebrating. But while they're waiting, guess what happens? Some of the soldiers start taking it upon themselves to go Nazi hunting. Not only that, but they start fighting amongst themselves. One of them gets drunk and shoots one of the others. An American soldier kills another American soldier while they're drunk because they're bored and they're all waiting to go home. The war's over. The plot is the war's over, they're celebrating, we can relax. The subplot, there's other things happening while that's happening. And the subplot is actually what was driving the plot to happen and for that episode to succeed. For me, the subplots in that episode were the most memorable. The subplots made the episode, it carried the episode. And that's not a bad thing because it worked. People can tell you this is right, this is wrong all day long, but if it works and people enjoy it, it worked. Your subplot can change, it can go in different directions, but your main plot stays consistent. Your hero, your protagonist is trying to accomplish a goal. In the episode, they're just trying to go home. The speed of the subplot can vary. There's really no rules for the subplot. It's just supposed to drive the main plot and keep the audience's attention. The subplot can coincide with the plot or it can contradict it. In Gilmore Girls, there's an episode where Lorelai, the mother, and Rory, the daughter, are settling into romantic relationships, and that's what they have in common. And what Lorelai is going through is what Rory is going through, but in a different context. But then comes the sex. Lorelai's experienced, Rory is not. And that's when we start seeing the stories change a little bit. But at the end of the episode, Lorelai and Rory sit down and have a talk about sex together. And the episode ends with Lorelai learning things from Rory and Rory learning things from her experienced mom. There at the end, the stories coincide again. They were coinciding in the beginning, then they went off a little bit, contradicted, and then they coincided at the end. If they had contradicted in the beginning, Lorelai would be having a horrible time in a romantic relationship, whereas Rory would be having a good one. Rory would believe in true love and love prevails, but Lorelai would believe that, puppy love or romantic love is great in the beginning, but it fades, and what's really most important is finding a compatible partner where you're kind to each other, where you'll find emotional and financial stability. In Rory's journey, she's not there yet. She believes that romantic love will sustain a relationship. How do you mess up a subplot? And it's a very simple answer. Having too many characters, that's it. If you have two characters and you could actually combine them into one character and still pull the reactions out of your protagonist and heroes, then just combine those two characters into one. I've done that multiple times and it works great. It also saves your reader or your audience from having to remember characters and their names and who they're supposed to be. You can also have a character represent a culture or a society or a town. In Field of Dreams, Beulah, she represents the townspeople's attitude toward Ray and his wife. In Pride and Prejudice, Lady Catherine can represent the attitude of the family. She can represent the attitude of the aunt, but she also represents the attitude of society and the surrounding aristocracy. There would be no point in her having a husband or a son or a daughter to have a voice about those things. She can handle all of that herself, and she did. When I think of non-violent, vicious villains, I think about Lady Catherine. She knocked it out of the ballpark. So when you have your main plot points, your subplot points, your conflict, your theme, settings, time period, all of that, now you're ready to get started. Now it's just a matter of filling in the gaps. Here's 3 things to keep in mind when you're creating plot points. Think of each plot point as a fight or argument, or a negotiation, or a seduction. All 3 of those is some form of conflict. And we can talk about the 3-act structure. I think that a lot of people have pointed out there can be a 4-act structure, there can be a 5-act structure. And the answer is yes. The point is keeping the audience's attention. But for the time being, let's just keep it simple and let's call it a 3-act structure. So when you look at the 3-act structure, here's what you can do. Act 1, how is the hero going to get chased up the tree? Act 2, Who and how are rocks going to be thrown at your main character? And in Act 3, what is the journey of that character coming down and having a redemptive ending? When I was at Pepperdine, one of my professors, when I took the writing class, his name was James Scott Bell, and he's still alive and he's still writing books. And he talked about 4 things to think about as you're creating your hero's journey and the 3 plot points. But his points were 4. There are 4 points, and I'm going to read them off to you. This is from my class notes. Right now, I'm recording this in 2023. This was back in 2006, so this was a long time ago. So listen to this. Number 1, the lead, the hero, will feel or be incompetent in his or her ordinary world. Number 2, what he or she searches for is of great importance. Number 3, large obstacles will stand in his or her way. And number 4, the quest will change the lead, the hero, in a major way, even if it ends in tragedy. So one of the themes that I've been talking about so far is there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's whatever works for you, right? It's whatever keeps the audience's attention. So these are things to be thinking about as you're plotting out your main points.